You can't be serious, man. You cannot be serious!
Ivan and Don, do you know we were going to only have 2 segments today because we didn't have an interviewee, Don. But what happened? Just, you couldn't believe it. The doc from Mount Gambier rang in and has saved us. He told us about everything, didn't he? And so this is the final segment for today, Wednesday, Don, and you'll be able to download this shortly and listen to it on all your favourite Podbean. I notice we said this.
Did you have your operation on your shoulder?
KB yesterday. KPMG are advertising on this show about climate change against everything we say, but we don't have any control over what Podbean put on to advertise. But we are saying take no notice of KPMG and the climate change. They have no idea what they're talking about. They're just being into woke bullshit. So thanks to KPMG anyhow for Podbean putting them on our podcast. Now, finally, Don, before we get on to the soccer, I want to mention 2 things you might find interesting. A person was fined $2,000 for parking his car in a electric charging space in the city when he didn't have an electric car. So here's a warning, if you park your car in an electric vehicle charging bay and you don't have an electric vehicle, you get fined $2,000. If that's not encouraging people to, I don't know what that's encouraging.
I've just found it on the internet. Here it is here. Drivers could be fined as much as $3,200 for parking in spaces for electric vehicles. So that's in...
But why would you want to park? Isn't that inconsiderate?
Well, Don, because you can't get a parking spot.
Okay, that's your problem. It's not the electric.
Well, it's a difference between. I'm not disagreeing with it. I'm just saying we're giving a warning. It's like parking in a disabled spot if you haven't got a disabled sticker. I understand that. I'm not saying it's wrong. I'm just saying be careful. If you think you're going to be sneaky and park your normally aspirated petrol engine or whatever you drive in just be careful because you'll get fined up to $3,000, Ivan.
I've got a question and a couple of things come out of that. You go first, Ivan, I'll come second.
All right. Why do electric cars have these mock exhaust pipes? That's obviously to look like a normal car, isn't it?
Maybe because they have to emit whatever the build-up of electrical charge. Maybe they have to aerate the battery. I have no idea, Ivan. Maybe they're hybrids. Go ahead, Don.
Your disability, what is it?
I beg your pardon?
Your disability, what is it?
Mental.
Okay. And you get a sticker to put on your car if you've got a mental disability?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. How are you able to drive the car if you've got a mental disability?
Because I've been driving how long have I been driving? For 65 years, and I know how the car works.
I see. But you get a sticker for this problem that you've got in your brain or your head, and you just park wherever you like.
No, you can park wherever you like if there's a disabled spot available. That's right. You can park it. I can park in a proper, just a non-disability area if I wish, as long as I feed the meter.
But you could park in a disability area.
Yes, because I have a disabled sticker.
That's right. Mm-hmm. Okay. So there's something wrong with your brain.
Yes.
Okay. Fine.
That's what I told the disability department. I've got a sore ankle, Don. I can't walk, you fool. I've had a debilitating ankle injury, and the surgeon said we'd better give you. I can't carry things. I can't put weight on it, and therefore I have a disability. Legally.
Did you have that operated on yesterday?
The cripple sticker.
That's another name for it, Ivan.
Sorry.
A cripple sticker. That's just the generic throwaway term of having a disabled sticker is called a cripple sticker.
It's not very PC.
And it's not very politically correct, that, because I am sort of a cripple. You're a mental cripple, Don. I'm a physical cripple. Now, so that was the first thing. And did you know this? Here's something interesting. Left-hand drive vehicles are now not going to be allowed to be registered in Tasmania and Adelaide. So if you import a car, you cannot register a new left-hand drive vehicle from Europe or the States. But if you have an old car, I think it has to be 30 years old before it qualifies, you're still not going to be allowed to have it registered in Adelaide or Tasmania. So you better be aware, because you can bet the Andrews government will seize on that for some reason, and you won't be allowed to register.
Well, you won't be able to drive one of yours
No,
interstate,
if
will
they're
you?
registered, that's okay. If
We
you
should ask Bernie.
If you have them already registered, that's okay.
I
But
think
you
you'd be harassed if you drove one of those.
You won't be allowed to register them from a certain time. That is also, if you have gas stove, you're not going to be asked to take it out of the system, but you cannot register gas appliances if you buy new, I don't know, what did you say, Ivan?
We should have called Bernie McCusker.
McCusker.
About what?
Well, he's in South Australia, isn't he? He'll know the law, left-hand drive.
Well,
Yes.
I don't think he possibly will, because we're announcing it now, although we were told by someone that was the case. Now, just before we're going to get on to the, what are we going to get on
Talking
to?
about Barney McCusker, I was watching a race meeting last week at Coleraine, which is on the way to South Australia.
Motor racing?
No, horse racing.
Thank you.
It was
Clear
a
that
jumps.
up, Don.
It was a jumps meeting, and in the preamble, it was the Great Western Steeple. It must be the oldest, or one of the oldest races in Australia. First run in 1850 at Coleraine. 42 jumps. Can you believe 42 jumps? It went for 4 miles.
Mm-hmm.
That is just unbelievable that a horse could go that. That is in 1850. The Grand, what is it, the Grand, what is that race at Warrnambool? The Grand, whatever it is at
Yep.
Warrnambool, that goes for about 3 miles, I think.
Does it?
3 or 2.5 or something. But that 4 miles, 42 fences, unbelievable. Great Western Steeple. It's run every year at Coleraine. And the final, I think the Grand National's coming up this week at Ballarat. So that's the final of the jumps racing for the season.
Now, before we get on to the soccer, Don, do you remember maybe 2 years ago, maybe you can't remember what you did yesterday, do you remember that we said that Dorothea McKellar's poem of I Love a Sun Burnt Country, very careful how you say that, Don, that could be...
No, we won't.
No, but
we won't. No,
you-
no,
that
I know
sometimes
exactly
you
what
can
you're
make the
saying.
Freudian
I know,
slip.
I understand.
That's a spoonerism.
Thank you.
I love a sun
Thank you.
burnt
Thank you.
country.
Thank you.
Do you
Thank you.
remember that we discussed sunburnt country? I love a sunburnt country, a land of sweeping plains, of ragged, not rugged.
No, rugged.
No,
isn't it?
ragged.
You sure?
I am positive. Of ragged mountain ranges, of droughts and flooding plains.
I got up in the 6th grade
I
at
love
Box Hill
her
North
far-
Primary School and said rugged.
It's ragged. You know, remember Ragged, the gerbil? He was called Ragged. The bloke stuck a pipe up his bottom for Ragged. Well, I can play Ragged. We've got that on tape if you want to hear that again. It's ragged mountain ranges of droughts and flooding plains. I love her far horizons. I love her jewelled sea, her beauty and her terror, her wide brown land for me. Now, we said that would be a great anthem for Australia, and now someone's got onto that. I see that has reared its head again. So maybe people have remembered we spoke about that 2 years ago, Don. Do you think they would have been right?
4 years.
'Cause
We've been going for 4 years.
We're ahead of
haven't
the
we?
curve, you know
No,
that, don't
we've
you?
been going for 4 years.
Right, now, Don, you have a crack first at what a tremendously successful Stetford, what a tremendously successful campaign it was to have the Women's World Cup soccer football finals and competition played here and in New Zealand.
In Australia on free-to-air television, we've been treated for the past 6 weeks to world-class sport. I'm talking about the swimming in Japan. I'm talking about basketball, the netball, although it wasn't free-to-air. I might have been on SBS. That was in South Africa.
Why don't you talk about the soccer?
And finally, the soccer, which finished on Sunday night. What a series of sporting events we've witnessed. World class.
Broken all records for attendance and viewership in Australia, the Women's World Cup soccer competition and final. And
I haven't barracked, sorry to cut across you again,
please.
but I haven't barracked since I was a young boy barracking for Essendon at Windy Hill, like I did in the soccer. And it was good to watch the final because I wasn't emotionally involved, and it was fascinating to watch those girls. And the other thing that fascinated me was the different body shapes of the athletes.
We did this once. You did
Well,
it 2 weeks
even
ago.
last night I was amazed at the English ladies who looked much bigger physically than their opposition, although the opposition, the Spanish girls, had a couple of very tall forwards. And the English girls were power. The way I didn't think they could run the way they did, but they were power machines.
Well, I watched it too, Don, and you talk about patriotism. I've said this before, but in 2006 we were in Germany, in Munich, for the World Men's Soccer Competition final, and to see Australia play Brazil over there, although they got beaten, it was so emotional to be there. So here's my question. Had the Matildas been playing Sweden, was it?
We played Sweden.
Who'd they play for third and fourth?
Oh, Sweden.
Had the Matildas been playing at the same time as the grand final between England and Spain, which one would you have watched?
Oh, no. Well, that's a stupid question because that's part of a competition. I don't. The thing that came up for me. Sorry, the thing that came up for me, although it was a terrific game, Australia and Sweden. Why would you be playing? And I congratulate the girls to get themselves up mentally because it'd be an anticlimax. Why would you play off for third and fourth? Why wouldn't you just say equal third? It's a knockout series.
Money. Now, Don,
Money.
I'm asking you this again. If you had a chance, because they were both being played at the same time on different television stations, would you have watched the Matildas play Sweden for third or fourth, or would you have watched England and Spain play for the pennant? Which one would you have watched?
I would have.
I
would have watched England and Spain.
Yes, so would have I. But people.
Why? What a stupid question to ask, though.
Well,
Why would you ask that?
Because I've asked plenty of people, and they said, "Oh, we'd watch the Matildas." And
What?
Well, that's why I asked you, Don. I wanted to see if you were on the same page as me, and you can be accused of not being patriotic. I would watch the final, which I did, and I thought it was a fantastic game. The skill level of that game was far and above all the other.
I thought Australia was the equal. And I think Australia, there were two highlights for me which really rank, and Australia was involved. I thought Sam Kerr's goal from outside the box was sensational.
As good as it gets, men or women.
Mary Fowler laid a left-hand kick. She can kick both feet. Now,
Extraordinary.
She passed the ball. God, here we go.
Chook Fowler. That's a generic nickname for someone
Mary,
called Fowler.
She laid it off to, no, it wasn't Gorey. Anyway, I forget the girl who scored a goal. That pass was sensational. To get it past the opposition, it was in one of the earlier rounds, but it was the pass of the the tournament.
I agree, Don.
Now, while we're talking about soccer...
Well, we're talking about women's soccer still.
Okay. Why are people critical of the coach? Now, Tony Gustafsson, the coach of Australia, was criticised early on in the preparation. This is going back a couple of years.
Yes, you spoke about this two podcasts ago.
Okay, well, it came up again. Why was Sam Kerr there was an argument. Why was she included? It upset the cohesion. Mary Fowler wasn't as good as what she was and whatever else. Why is it that the coach receives these? I thought he did a terrific job in as much as the depth of Australia. It's the first time they've had real depth on the bench. I think he should be applauded for what he's done with that team. And the other thing that I wondered looking at England and Spain last night, the head injuries. You know, we're talking about CTE in our game. Are the soccer players suffering, because they do head the ball quite a bit? I wonder about that. And the other thing I watched with interest last night, because they used very long studs, and the girls were, and both games, Australia and Sweden, and also England and Spain, they were playing for keeps. They've got long sprigs, spikes, whatever your stops, as we used to call them, in their boots. Cleats, or whatever you like to call them, but they were deliberately dropped on the ankles or the shins of the opposition. They say it was
That'd be
that was
right up
intention.
your alley, Don. 'Cause
Exactly
that's what
right,
you
and
do.
they were playing for keeps, those girls. Now, just hang on.
Oh, yes.
Hang on. Now, in our game, I've got numbness because of the game we played on
Where
the side
have you
of
got
my foot,
numbness?
just on the shin.
Has it gone any further up the body? Has it gone up
And
above
I
your
just
shoulders?
wonder, and so that's nerve damage. Now, those girls receive a lot of damage to their ankles and their shins.
on my car.
I just wonder whether they have any of these players that have gone before, Mount Mail, whether they're suffering nowadays, or do they just? Why do they? If not, they're not suffering. Why do they put on such an act?
I like the fact you put an A in nowadays, because that's correct. It's not nowadays, it's nowadays. N-O-W-A. Now, Don, do you think, you're onto a very good point, do you think in this woke evolving age we live in that sooner or later they'll modify the rules in soccer so that you can overcome the fact you can head the ball, but you'll be able to maybe hit it with your hand, or how are they going to overcome that when it becomes a problem?
The beauty with this game of soccer is that they haven't. I've watched it since the early 70s.
To answer my question.
No. The beauty is they haven't changed the rules.
To answer my question, how are they going to overcome it?
I hope they don't change the rules,
so
because it's easy to
CTE.
understand and everybody's involved. Our game is a matter of interpretation. That's Australian rules.
So when we
it's
have
a difficult game.
when we have
don't
the
touch
vocal
soccer.
anarchists and minorities come up and say, "Oh, this is damaging to your brain, the heading, and we better stop it," what are they going to come up with? Or are they going to tell them to get nicked? Or is everyone going to be compelled to wear a skull cap? Or a head protective instrument, not a helmet, but a band.
Well, it goes with my question: are they suffering from CTE? Now, if they're not, just continue on playing.
Well,
why would they have to?
Well, no, someone will bring it up that they are.
Well, you look at some of the photos of after the matches, the girls and Matildas, they got black eyes and bruises.
Yeah, but hang on, there was that clash of heads last night.
Yeah, well...
No, but if you keep heading the ball, you're going to get grazes on your head, and they'll say
Why? No, it's a deflection. I don't know. I'm just asking. I'm not...
bullshit. When someone drives the ball in a goal, they head it back.
We haven't played the game, so we cannot speak with any authority.
I've not been to the moon, Don, but I know it's there. If someone drives a ball into the goal and the defender heads it away, it hits it at a speed of knots.
But it's their deflections. You saw
They
them
hit it
flick them on.
straight
Sam
back.
Kirk had flicks the ball on over a head.
So
it's a deflection.
So I know I'm going to say this again. It was a fantastic tournament and it was well run, but we had another irrelevant display of pseudo-patriotism at the opening of the English-Spanish grand final by Welcome to Country. The traditional custodians, this woman said, "Welcome to the traditional custodians of this land and from all other Australians." So we were divided at the opening. Why we would have a display of Indigenous display at the start of an English-Spain game has got me beaten.
And I don't understand. I actually turned it off. If you're doing that, it was a World Cup as one.
Yep.
Do it initially.
Yep.
4 weeks ago, you're welcome to country.
Yep.
You're all here. Let's get on with it.
If the World Cup final was being played in England and Australia was playing, say, Sweden, would you cop the English putting on a display and a recognition of the Battle of Trafalgar, which was between England and Spain? Standing there means absolutely nothing to England and Spain when we showed the Indigenous welcome. It was nonsense. And this is another example of how we've been hoodwinked by this bullshit. And I'll tell you, then they had the girls who came out and did the display. They were kicking around Indigenous soccer balls, but they're all...
those little balls, what do you mean they were Indigenous?
They were all painted with Indigenous patterns on them.
Really?
That's all right.
I saw that.
So then, don't worry about selling your soul. The person who sang was dressed out in Adidas gear. The girls were wearing Adidas socks. So don't worry, we didn't lose the fact that we were getting a quid out of Adidas or someone to put on all the Adidas gear. You can't get a better contradiction in terms. And so having said all that, Tell us why we have to put up with people telling us how badly they are off just to get their attention, or so they get our attention. It was a fantastic tournament, but marred by this nonsense we had to put up with. And this is, you had that feckless peasant, the Prime Minister, and the man who runs the Qantas Airways, putting Mr. and Mr. Joyce, putting yes on the planes, and him being
What's
there.
that got to do with soccer?
Well, I'll tell you what, they must be panicking because no one's going to vote for that yes thing. It's going to get...
It's really...
Well, big business are all starting to backtrack.
It's going to be
now.
resoundingly beaten.
It's really, really irritating me the way he's pushing it over the weekend.
That's what I said.
And he's being very patronising in the waddies and condescending
That's
in
what
the way he's
They're
delivering
losing.
it.
They're
That's what I
losing.
said about the
That's
soccer,
why.
Don. That's why.
Talking about sport, can I ask you a question that's you would be able to answer this?
Yes.
I heard there's the Channel 9 are putting the footy show on again. Is that right?
No, they're not.
They're not.
Well, as I understand it, they are putting together a compilation of all the grand final footy shows that were since 1994 for grand final week. I understand that's what's happening because there was plenty of highlights of all football, not me or not us, but all the players being involved in grand final footy shows over the 25 years they did it. So I think they're going to do that. I don't know, but I think...
will they be doing it each year? Because there'd be a lot of footage over 25 years.
No, they're going to do, Don, they're going to do a show. I don't know how long it'll go for, but combining the 25 years highlights of the grand final footy shows. That's as I understand it. Just because people are... whether you like it or not, are vitally interested in what went on that footy show. Nothing to do with me, but to do with the players and people and the highlights of it. And could I just say this to you? There was a controversy about whether a goal was scored between the Crows and the Swans, which was of vital interest to see who might continue in the finals. And I'll just say this again, if the person in the top office could stop the bullshit that they carry on with about telling us how to live our lives, what to think, what to suggest, if they could get the game right, by how hard would it be in this day and age to get a proper system that decides whether a ball... They've had snicko in cricket for 20 years. Why couldn't they get something that tells you, beside the goal umpire, if the ball hit the post or not, or the point post or the goal post, instead of all the other crap they carry on with? Get the game right, Don. That would be... because there's people might quite unfairly get put out of a finals race because they don't have the technology and no one's... And it shouldn't up be the goal umpire to say, oh, I couldn't decide. They should just review everything like they do in every other sport, seeing as the technology's there now. And if that man, those bunnies sit up in the top office and think they're socially elite wankers, rather than getting on with trying to nobble us about having a discussion about Nicky Winmore or anything else to do with race or anything else to do with equity and diversity, how about they get the game right? And probably it'll be a good thing that he's gone, because someone else will take over and concentrate on the real things that people are interested in our great game, Don. This I say. Now, have we got any...
Do you think Gill will ever leave, or he'll just keep hanging on forever?
I thought he was meant to be gone, isn't he?
Yeah, last September.
Just seriously. So, all right, now, I don't think I can... Can we mention anything else about sport? Did you notice this? Now, here's a thing you mightn't have noticed. Did you notice that an Australian man holds the middleweight title for MMA, is it? What's it called? The cage fighting? Yeah. In America.
No, I didn't know.
Well, his name is... I'll tell you what his name is. His name is... I thought they introduced him and he fought this bloke and beat the shit out of him. And I thought, I didn't even know he was. So let's mention his name. Just keep on going while I find what his fucking name is.
While you're looking at that, did you hear... I heard something that a number of 10 Victorian councils... Can you enlighten me? have been blindsided by sweeping Aboriginal land rights deals. This is done by the Andrews government. Do you know anything about that?
No, but I noticed they're pushing back on it and they're starting to cancel
10
them.
council, Victorian councils.
Yep, they're starting to push back on it. I'm going to
And
get
also something that somebody mentioned to me and I can't find much about it. I've got to do. Do you know anything about the Koori Court?
No, Don, why don't you mention about the
I don't
Koori
know.
Court?
I'm asking you.
Well, where did you get that from?
Oh, this person was mentioning it.
I saw this on the Twitter. It's called the X feed now, not Twitter.
X.
I see Kane Corns has been torn a new one, if I could use that phrase again, because he said he thought the Matildas were a little soft in their in the game between third and fourth. Why can't he say that? Why can't he have an opinion about that? And then they've ripped him and they said, oh, that's a disgrace and they did a great job. No one said the Matildas didn't do a great job, but he said he thought they were a little soft in the game and got the shit kicked out of him. Why can't he say that?
Hang on. Do you think Kane Corns wants to remain relevant? And so he'll make a controversial statement.
Could be.
I take that on advisement.
Because I watched Katrina Gorry, and she wasn't mucking around out on that soccer pitch. And none of them were mucking around. They
Don?
were.
No, there
it was
game.
On physically.
Don?
It was very physical.
I take your point, Don, but why, if that's his opinion, if you think he's trying to create publicity for himself, if that was his genuine opinion, why can't he have that and back himself up? I think he did back himself up. He said, oh, this and that and that. And Sam Kerr was 75% fit, great and all as she is and everything like that. And I'm not sure why he can't have that opinion. We just shouldn't criticise people just because they have a different opinion about what they're looking at. So now, Don, did you know this? Now, tell me what you think of this. 4 sides in the NRL are playing their first game in Las Vegas for the first game of the year next year in Las Vegas.
It was done years ago, John. They took our game across there to play exhibition. Your team, Geelong, went to San Francisco and Hawaii back in the 70s.
Don,
it doesn't work, mate.
Don, please.
It doesn't
if you
work.
Just let me finish. This is not an exhibition. This is the first round is being played in Las Vegas and the 4 sides come from New South Wales. Wouldn't you think that the Storm might get an invitation to go over there and be one of the sides, therefore representing Melbourne and Sydney, the 2 biggest states in Australia, in Las Vegas? Why wouldn't they ask the Storm to be one of the sides? This is not an exhibition game. This is for the first round for points in Las Vegas. Do you not have an opinion about that, Don?
Not at all.
Okay, good. Well, now, when Crowded House have been withdrawn their invitation, they withdrew it. What do you reckon? I'm saying this again, please. What do you reckon's going to replace them? I'll tell you what's going to replace them.
Frank Howson.
I reckon Frank Howson. I reckon a large corroboree of Indigenous celebration will consume the whole of the grand final day, because I say here's a good opportunity to once again ramp up this nonsense that we are inhabitants of someone's country and will divide us even further. That's my opinion about that, Don. You wait, and his final act of being a social elite up in the top office will be that. So there we are.
Do we have a stand-in group? I think we do.
Well, who is it?
I think it might be Kiss.
Oh, Kiss, is it?
Can we name?
Yes. What's his name? Stanley, isn't it?
Paul
Gene
Stanley.
Simmons. Gene Simmons.
Who's
Paul Stanley. He's from Kiss.
Ace Frehley.
That's
Ace
our
Frehley.
friend's brother.
Who?
A very close relation of Sue Stanley.
Really?
Yeah, absolutely.
What's his name? Paul Stanley.
Paul Stanley and Sue.
What, cousins are they?
Sue and Paul, kissing cousins.
Kissing cousins.
Paul and Sue Stanley.
Okay.
Can you name more than 3 songs Kiss had?
What?
Can you name more than 3 songs?
I can't name one, but I like them, but I can't name one.
we go.
What are they? Give us
I have
them.
no idea. I
You
can't
idiot. Ivan, don't ask questions you don't know the answers to. You know, quiz.
Story of my life.
Wouldn't
someone.
there be an Australian group that would be adequate?
Yeah, what about the
Crowded
Little
House.
River Band or I don't think.
I'm into Masters Apprentices. Unfortunately, a couple of them have passed on, haven't they?
So you couldn't have them, Don, if a lot of them have passed on. They could pay large records of them, DVDs of them, and
I'm
show
just
them
thinking of some of the group they've passed on, haven't they?
Yeah, well, let's get the ones that have passed on to
Masters
sing.
Apprentices.
You idiot. So we're finally winding this up, Don. So it's been interesting for a Wednesday, hasn't it? Because it is Wednesday.
I hope you. How are you feeling after the op?
Good. No, I'm a bit groggy. But that's why I haven't made much sense today.
It's been a fantastic effort from you.
All right. Well, now I'm sure there was one other thing I was going to
What are we
mention.
having operated on? Or what did you have operated on?
Brain. I'm going to have one more crack at this. I'm sure there was one thing.
No.
Oh, no, I wanted to say this. Now, so I was over in Tasmania and we drove past Latrobe, which was...
Drove through Latrobe or past it?
We drove past or through it.
Through it.
One and the same thing. We drove past.
It wouldn't be a big place. They wouldn't have a diversion.
No.
The road that
there's not.
goes around.
No,
so you drove through
It's not a big
Latrobe.
place, Don. And the point of me mentioning there's a
Did
great...
Daryl Baldock come from Latrobe? You remember Daryl Baldock?
I was about to say, Don, there's a great statue of Daryl Baldock outside the Oval of Latrobe. I was about to say it, you fuck. So, and I had my photograph taken beside it. I'll show it to you in case you're
maybe
interested.
you could show it to the people who are
No,
listening.
I'm showing it to you in case you think I'm making it up. I just want...
Shove it down the microphone.
And the reason I'm telling you...
You could have showed me this
the
reason
I'm telling you is because...
What's your right hand doing? One's in the pocket.
Oh, yes, I'm pulling myself, Don. Don't be. I know. The reason I'm saying this is because they had a whip round to raise money to make the statue, and there was a shortfall of quite a considerable amount of money. And do you know who chipped in and said, I will provide the shortfall? And there's a fantastic statue of him, and it's sitting there proudly.
Lindsay Fox?
Yes. So... Lindsay Fox chipped in. I know we only be a round of drinks for him, but nevertheless, he said, whatever the shortfall is, count on me, and I won't embarrass Lindsay by saying how much he put in, but I know how much he put in. It was a considerable amount of money. And so the great Daryl Baldock has been immortalised in bronze, and he is in front of the Latrobe. What, do you want to look at it again?
Look at the photograph,
Right,
please.
well,
Bronze would be worth a bit.
Bronze would be worth a bit. There it is, Don. Backwards and forwards. You can just show you there. That's my little head, and don't worry about what my hand's doing. It's not doing what you think it's doing.
Have you done something to your face?
Oh, so you're not looking at the statue?
No, just
you're looking at me.
You. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I have. I put a mask on, so that's not really me. So that's it. It's turned to shit again. So anyhow, so long. Ivan, any final announcements?
No.
Any shout-outs? You've retired now.
Yes,
You've snatched
I'll
it.
be signing autographs in the Perth airport probably in a couple of weeks.
Right, Don. And if you want to go to Mick Christian and buy for Father's Day, the very, very popular stubby holders, the bucket hats, the T-shirts
With the collar.
Without the collar.
No, we
Don.
want the collar.
We're not doing them with the collar. And the other thing was the caps. And then if you want to have a final bid on cap number 5...
Don't forget Kate Save. You've got
4.
until Friday to invest.
Right, that's it. Finally, that's it. Thank God for that. That's all. And let's see if I can press the right button here.